Thank you, Marut McCloy, who will be your moderator for this event. Hello and welcome. So what is this event? First and foremost, it is not a celebration. Far from it. It is at the very least a commiseration. So the reason why the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people is observed by the United Nations on or around the 29th of November each year is because UN Resolution 181, partitioning Palestine and giving the Palestinians only about 45% of their territory, and often the less fertile parts too, was adopted by the UN General Assembly on the 29th of November 1947. Right after that, Jewish terrorist groups like Irgun, the Stern Gang, and Haganah violently evicted about 800,000 innocent indigenous people from their homes and lands, and butchering some 15,000 of them, leaving the Palestinians as well with only about 22% of historic Palestine. And since 1967, even that has been illegally occupied by Israel, whereby they are flouting international law. So of the two states to be created under the UN resolution, only one, Israel, has so far come into being. This day has traditionally provided an opportunity to focus attention on the fact that the question of Palestine remains unresolved and that the Palestinian people are yet to attain their inalienable rights as defined by the UN General Assembly, that is, the right to self-determination without external interference, the right to national independence and sovereignty, and the right to return to their homes and property from which they were expelled. The huge concentration camp, today's Warsaw Ghetto, Gaza, has been under siege for 15 years, denying it the basic necessities of life, like foodstuffs, clean water, electricity, building materials, medicines, and medical equipment. Gaza is effectively occupied by being deliberately, slowly, and painfully choked, battered, brutalized, starved, and poisoned to death. This annual event was organized in Thailand for many years, but in recent years, for various reasons, it has not taken place. So the event this year is the first for some time and signifies renewed vigor and activity in the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, PSC Thailand, now with a majority participation of Thai members. As PSC Thailand is affiliated to the UN Committee on the Exercise of the Inalienable Rights of the Palestinian People at the UN Division for Palestinian Rights in New York, we have always previously organized this event together with the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, UNESCAP. It's been a physical event held at the UN building in Bangkok. But due to the coronavirus pandemic, the event is solely online this year. So, as I've mentioned, the organizers of this event are the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, PSC Thailand, which was founded on the 10th of December 2007. PSC Thailand is working to raise awareness amongst the Thai population and other residents of Thailand of the injustices being constantly inflicted on the Palestinians since the imposition of Israel more than 73 years ago, and to solicit support for them in their struggle for their human rights, their human dignity, and the creation of an independent, viable, sovereign, and contiguous state of Palestine. We are an informal group who have come together in our personal capacities to support the Palestinian people in their quest for independence and statehood in accordance with international law and resolutions. We support the various UN resolutions on Palestine, especially those in the UN General Assembly, of which Thailand has voted in favor. We want to counterbalance the well-organized and well-funded Israeli PR and communications campaigns in Thailand. Another aim is to facilitate trade, travel, and cultural exchanges between Thailand and Palestine. As we are approaching the 10th anniversary of Thailand recognizing the state of Palestine and establishing diplomatic relations, there is an added impetus to the necessity and value of PSC Thailand's activities and its importance as an organization. An important area of our activities is our support for non-violent resistance to Israel's illegal occupation through the boycott, divestment, and sanctions, the BDS campaign. And incidentally, its website is www.bdsmovement.net. That's www.bdsmovement.net. And another very good, interesting, and useful site in this context is whoprofits.org. Whoprofits.org. The constant theft of Palestinian land and forced evictions of Palestinians from their homes are illegal, as are Israel's colonialist settlements, which are described by UN experts as the engine of occupation, and they constitute war crimes. According to international law, Israel has no jurisdiction on anything in occupied Palestine. The lawless, radical, fundamentalist, murderous settler thugs and hooligans, sanctioned by the Israeli government and aided and abetted by what is laughingly called the Israeli Defense Forces, are largely financed by cheating fundraising groups in America. These groups make themselves out to be charities, thereby achieving charity status for tax purposes. But there is now a campaign, Defund Racism, to try to stop the flow of these crucial funds to the brutal, vicious, illegal settlers. Do go to defundracism.org. That's defundracism.org to stop tax deductions which support ethnic cleansing, land theft, and forced home evictions. Israel is an apartheid state. That's according to Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And if anyone knows what apartheid is, it's him. Human Rights Watch and the Israeli human rights organization B'Tselem are amongst all those who have also designated Israel as an apartheid state. The Israeli government, which spies on human rights defenders with its evil, dangerous, disruptive, intrusive Pegasus spyware, itself knows that it is an apartheid state, which is why it has for a long time been attempting to silence democratic Palestinian human rights organizations, and has now gone as far as to declare 6 of them as terrorist organizations. We've seen for decades that we cannot rely on politicians or the so-called international community to bring justice to the Palestinians. These politicians often boast about their human rights credentials, but when it comes to the Palestinians, they are conspicuous by their acquiescent silence. They're yawning and looking the other way. We cannot count on the pro-Israel international corporate media either to inform us as to the violations, the persecution, dispossession, marginalization, and victimization of the Palestinians on a daily basis. We ordinary citizens, through our direct actions, have to bring about justice for the Palestinians and Palestine. I was amused to see the environmental activist Greta Thunberg at COP26 demanding no more blah, blah, blah. But when it comes to the issue of Palestine, we can't even complain about blah, 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 because the issue of Palestine is just ignored. Hence the theme of this year's event, Palestine, the truth not so well told. If you also subscribe to the noble cause of Palestine, then do please join us. We need you. Our email address is palestinesolidarity.thailand@gmail.com. palestinesolidarity.thailand@gmail.com. And we also have many social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.